Now Grandma is just passing another little. Oh, she's got a story. She's got a poem here. This is a this is a nice little poem. This is a poem that all of you, even Aiden and Jenny and Amy and Ethan and Ryan and Chelsea, will all like. And do you know the name of this story? It's a child's poem called A Fairy in a Jar. Gosh, we're talking about elves and fairies and everything like this. Now let's see, a fairy in a jar, Jar, just like the jars that your mother puts her peaches in and her apricots in a jar. That would be a funny place for a fairy to be. Can a fairy? Yeah. All right, here's the poem. I walked the fields, I walked the woods. My boots have traveled far. I cannot rest till I bring home a fairy in a jar. I've learned to move without a sound. I've learned to watch and wait. I've seen them in the purple wood beyond the garden gate. When the moon like a pale blue circle slides into the sky, the fairies all begin to dance in the darkening woods nearby. The trees are black and lavender, the flowers ghostly white. The fairies' fluttering wings shine silver in the night. I've watched them and I've heard them sing underneath the moon. I've reached and nearly touched them, but they flit away too soon. I walk the fields, I walk the woods. My boots have traveled far. I cannot rest till I bring home a fairy in a jar. That was a nice little poem, wasn't it? To go out and try and catch those fairies and bring home. I wonder what they wanted to bring them home. Maybe to bring them home to Daddy and Mama so they could see the little fairies too. Well, that's the end of that poem, A Fairy in a Jar. But they never did quite get them, did they? Never did quite get them. Now, let me see. What? Oh, dear, I don't know. Maybe some of these stories around here are stories that we've already told you on the old one. We should have kept a record of what we told you on the other one. I don't know. Maybe we've got Puss in Boots here, but I don't know. I think maybe we told that last time, didn't we? I believe we did. Maybe we'd better find out and not tell it again, because that would be a sad thing to tell the same story over and over again. Let's see. Well, and I don't know. It seemed to me that we told some rhymes last time. Did you ever hear this? If you did, then I'm sure you'll remember. Fiddle-dee-dee, fiddle-dee-dee, the fly shall marry the bumblebee. They went to the church, and married was she, the fly has married the bumblebee. Rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub, and how do you think they got there? The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, they all jumped out of a rotten potato. 'Twas enough to make a man stare. That's a funny one. Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 24 blackbirds baked in the pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing. Now, wasn't that a dainty dish to set before the king? The king was in his counting house, counting out his money. The queen was in the parlor, eating bread and honey. The maid was in the garden hanging out the clothes when down came a blackbird and pecked off her nose. Huh. As I was going to St. Ives, I met a man with 7 wives. Each wife had 7 sacks. Each sack had 7 cats. Each cat had 7 kits. Kits, cats, sacks, and wives. How many were going to St. Ives? Well, I don't know, but I saw a ship a-sailing on the sea. And oh, but it was laden with pretty things for me. There were comforts in the cabin and apples in the hold. The sails were made of silk and the masts were made of gold. The 24 sailors who stood upon the deck were 24 white mice with chains about their necks. The captain was a duck with a packet on his back. And when the ship began to move, the captain cried, "Quack!" Seems to me that we told that last time. I don't remember. But there were 3 blind mice. See how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life as 3 blind mice? Curly locks, wilt thou be mine? Thou shalt not wash dishes, nor yet feed the swine, but sit on the cushion and throw a fine seam and feed upon strawberries, sugar, and cream. Well, I think we read those stories to you before, and I think now maybe. Now here's a little one. Have you heard of the man who stood on his head and put his clothes into his bed and folded himself on a chair instead? That sounds like Aiden. There was a little boy and he had a little dog, and he taught that dog to bake. And that dear little dog, all dinner time, would stand upon one leg. One day, to his master's great surprise, that little dog said, "Here goes," and he cocked his hind legs up in the air and stood upon his nose. One day a boy went walking and walked into a store. He bought a pound of sausage meat and laid it on the floor. The boy began to whistle. He whistled up a tune, and all the little sausages danced around the room. There was an old man called Michael Finnegan. He grew whiskers on his chin again. The wind came out and blew them in again. Poor old Michael Finnegan begin again. See, that last was